Coleman, and we will screen Gigantic Bitch with Mark's director's comments. I'd like everyone to please note that there will be smoking and drinking during this program, and that the film includes some scatological humor, gross bodily functions, and R-rated language. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me, and we will get started right in 3 minutes, 2 seconds. There we go. So Craig Coleman was born in San Jose, California in 1961. And he moved to San Francisco after his parents divorced. He had a wonderful relationship with his siblings, and he then moved to New York City, took a few trips to Rome, and finally settled in Miami Beach. Before moving on, I would like to thank the photographer and filmmaker Timothy Greenfield Sanders for opening his archive and providing these rarely seen photos of Craig Coleman taken prior to his arrival in Miami Beach. Craig Coleman was a sculptor, painter, and a performance artist. And as a drag performer known as VARLA, Coleman ushered in the Miami Beach drag scene with the first House of VARLA. I do want to state that profane, drag-infused burlesque comedy existed in Miami prior to VARLA, and most notable was Tubby Boots, who was billed as 400 pounds of sex-rated comedy and was a fixture on Miami Beach throughout the 1960s and 70s, but I digress. Between 1981 and 1988, there were over 125 art galleries on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in New York City. Known since the 1950s as the East Village, the Lower East Side was an economically depressed and ethnically diverse neighborhood, densely populated with young artists, filmmakers, and musicians. So think early films by Jim Jarmusch, James Chance, and the Contortions, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, No Wave, Sonic Youth. So these artists were representing an informal alternative to the newly institutionalized Soho Gallery District and to the long-established galleries on 57th Street. Between 1981, in the spring of 1985, the portrait photographer Timothy Greenfield Sanders set out to document this phenomena, which he found historically important, but recognized as fleeting as the AIDS epidemic was ravaging major cities like New York and San Francisco and beyond. So with the help of veteran art critic Robert Pincus Witten, Greenfield Sanders rounded up the key participants of the East Village art scene and produced the new Irascibles, a suite of 6 group portraits of artists, art dealers, and critics. And Coleman is seen in this photo in the back row wearing the red sweater. The series was reproduced in the September 1985 issue of Arts Magazine, which was exhibited at the Marquise Pfeiffer Photography Gallery in Soho and released as a limited edition portfolio, which is in the permanent collection of MOCA, thanks to the generosity of Ruth and Richard Schack. So working primarily as a sculptor, Craig's first exhibition in 1983 was when he was 22 years old. It took place at the New Math Gallery in the Lower East Side. And in this flash art review from 1985, his work was described as wonderfully intense, haunting, spiritual, and passionate. And these descriptors will be used to describe his work throughout his career. His work was often provocative, sexually charged. He used dark humor, tragedy, and comedy to engage viewers, and his works were infused with angels and demons, manifest on an earthly plane, and often preoccupied by carnal pleasures. So the Lower East Side in Manhattan in 1983 was very similar to South Beach in the 1980s and early 1990s. It was rough, it was cheap, and it was easy to navigate. And similar to artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat, Craig was actively working on the street and in his basement apartment studio on 12th Street in the East Village. Craig's sister conveyed to me that his basement apartment on the Lower East Side had a dirt floor. So he was really roughing it when he was living in the East Village, like many artists were. So here is Craig in New York City with Miss Lady Cure of Delight. And a mere 10 short years after this photo was taken, Craig Coleman would be gone. So Craig was lured to South Beach and he decides to stay. And the story goes that Coleman and a handful of other artists and performers were left stranded on South Beach after being lured by a group of New York City developers to help in the creation of an ill-conceived nightclub. And after the deal fell through, Coleman, with little money and no work, relied on what he knew best for survival, which was painting and drag performance art. The years 1989 through 94 proved to be very prolific years for Coleman. This painting from 92 is a rare, unadorned self-portrait, painted not long before his diagnosis with HIV/AIDS. And MOCA is very proud to be taking care of this collection, taking care of this work, which is in our permanent collection. And here we see New York City Craig transforms into Miami Beach Craig. I do want to say that the Espanola Way Art Center is another important part of Coleman's history, pictured here in the 1980s. And the Espanola Way Art Center is the building on the right. The whole right side of the street at the time was owned by collector and developer Craig Robbins. All the buildings on the left were owned by a different property owner. But Craig took up residence and transformed this building into the center of his operations. Coleman painted the glass windows of his studio. He painted the walls throughout the building, and he hung VARLA banners from the balconies. It was an exuberant display. Local developer Craig Robbins very generously subsidized studios for artists and playwrights in this building and up and down Espanola Way and throughout South Beach. Many bristled at the label SoBe, which was invented to market South Beach. And Miami Beach was a vital and creative ghetto, much like the Lower East Side, but we had a beach. Craig Coleman was ever present on Miami Beach. And here, another artist and friend, Damian Rojo, said that he was walking on Washington Avenue and I happened to have a movie camera, and Craig was delivering a painting to socialite Tara Solomon, and it was a portrait of Tara, and he stopped to tell me about it, and he did the little twirl for the camera. It's not a lot of film footage of Craig, so this is kind of a rare 19-second clip. So the Espanola Way Art Center was a mere 2 blocks from the ocean, and Coleman visited the beach as often as possible, taking inspiration from these surroundings and from current events. So here you can see a party boat trying to lure a group of balseros arriving on Miami Beach to come and party with them. So Coleman painted what he knew best. And so here are 2 rival groups of drag queens fighting over wigs in a dive bar, and it's called Girl Fight. And more wigs. So these are the top 20 hairdos. And I once heard Craig say, you know, the higher the hair, the closer to God. And in Gigantic Bitch, we'll see for a moment Craig peering into the window of a wig shop that was a holdover from the 1960s and 70s with the most amazing wig architecture forms that only a few years later do you see a similar image of Gianni Versace peering into the window, also taking inspiration for the wigs in that wig shop. So provocative, dark humor, and sophisticated use of color and composition. This work is titled Black Lezies in the Shaft Era from 1990. And here's an image of the first house of VARLA with Craig in his element, surrounded by the most notable drag queens of the moment. And interestingly, these were two paintings that were made for the Espanola Way Art Center. The second floor common area had these architectural insets, and Craig painted these are larger than life-size paintings, and there were the whole group of drag queens were set up throughout the building. And it's interesting that these are signed by VARLA, whereas most of Craig Coleman's paintings were signed Coleman. So I'm going to turn it over to Pepe, and I'll change the slides when he asks. Welcome,
hi,
Pepe.
everyone. Hi, everyone. I think when I arrived in Miami Beach was like 1999, 2000. I think there was all these things, all this South Beach that VARLA had lived in. There was still remnants of that. And I think that's kind of like the world that I lived in, you know, those 17 blocks that become like emblematic for me and growing up, like coming of age in this part of town. There were still a lot of clubs and all this drag scene and everything. And I always heard from so many people, like so many stories about these crazy kind of parties, all this energy that used to happen in South Beach. I was very, I absorbed all of this, and those 2-3 years that I lived in South Beach when I first arrived in Miami, they still kind of like stay with me in my mind, and they always kind of, they mark me. They kind of have like this very special place in my mind, and they've been very, yeah, they've been just very kind of, it's something that I always kind of like want to talk about in my work, and always like the work always kind of like reference those years. Next. And in like about maybe like 5 years ago, I got an opportunity to get an Andy Warhol Wavemaker grant. And my idea was, because I was always kind of like, one of the things that I always did before I got the grant was that I was always complaining about how Miami Beach has changed so much, and like all of these queer life, like all these like bars and clubs have disappeared, and how all of these businesses have taken over the beach and stuff. So I wanted to do like this club that kind of really was like a tribute to that era. And I was really lucky because I kind of like asked artist friends that to participate in this project. So the project will be like an exhibition, a queer art exhibition, but also will be like a club, and there will be music, and there will be DJs from that era, like DJ Smee participated in the project. And he was great. He was like DJing all the CDs, and it was pretty awesome. And then an artist, Carlos Betancourt, brought all of this ephemera to the exhibition, and we did like a small kind of museum at the beginning of the show, so people get an idea where the reference came from to do the club. And when we were looking at all the material, one of the things that kept popping out were like all these images of VARLA. And you guys can see in this picture, next to this picture of Suzanne Barch, there's VARLA. She did the cover of this rag antenna, and she's there partying with all these disco balls. And that image kind of like, that was my first kind of introduction to her, like looking at this magazine. And then next, you can do the next one, next slide. And then there were more all of these other newspapers that Carlos brought for the exhibition, and VARLA was like in a lot of the covers of all of these Wire magazines. So that was like my first kind of like, who was this person? Like my first like kind of like I was very curious. And then I think about that time, Kevin was also curated a show of VARLA. And I remember telling Carlos, I said, I think Kevin has a show of these same person that we're talking about. So it was kind of like one of those things where like you connect things, you know, that kind of happen, and it was just very natural. And that's kind of like how it started, you know, my introduction to her. And I was very fascinated by her as a character, as this persona, this larger than life persona. Next. And then time passed, and then one of the things that I do for my work is that I collect a lot of objects and things because I work in mixed media. I'm a sculptor, and I go to this thrift store that is like kind of like a queer space, like it's called Out of the Closet, and there's so many different things that that I find there for my work. But one day I walked in and I encountered this self-portrait of VARLA, and I couldn't believe it. I was just kind of like, I was just like, I think this is her work. And then I looked at the signature and I really confirmed that it was her work. And then I asked the guy that was working there, I was like, is there more of these? And then he's like, there's one more in the back. And I was like, I've taken them. I immediately kind of like got them. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I was like, well, I put them in my house, you know, I do something. But part of me wanted to do something with them in the context of my work, and also because I've been working in all these installations that I was like including other people's work and like kind of like collaborating with other artists. So I felt that it was kind of like it kind of like happened very natural. So I took them home. Next. And then right after I got the paintings, I got a studio visit from Amy Galpin, who is the chief curator at the Frost Art Museum. And she was working on an exhibition about Miami, the exhibition is called Deconstruction. So she was thinking about artists revisiting histories of the city. So I commented to her, you know, I have this project that maybe I would like to do. And then she was like, I love it. She was totally very excited about the project. And I think kind of like that really encouraged me to do the project sooner versus later. And then so this is the first presentation of VARLA. I called it VARLA TV after the TV show, and it's kind of like a tribute to VARLA, a two-person exhibition, a collaboration. I always think like, oh my God, she would have loved it or she would have hated it. she would have been like, what are you doing? What are you like, you know, what are you doing with my work? But I kind of like love that about it because I seen some of the videos, like her personality was like very explosive. So I kind of like included my work in this. So I made like a quilt, like this tribute of all the images of VARLA that I found in The Wire. And some friends like William Spring, he wrote a lot of these articles about VARLA, and actually he's a friend of mine. So he lent me the newspapers and I scanned them. So it was like a collaboration. People started bringing me things, and I kind of like that's how the project started to get going. Next. So you can see the close-ups here. I made like a little marquee for VARLA to give her like center stage. And then I kind of like use all of these different pages from the newspaper. Next. So you can see here, you guys can see the other painting of VARLA. It's like the one, I think Kevin mentioned that it was more like a later work for her. I think these two pieces that I found are like later works for her. I think these are like a year before he passed away. Next. So here I started to do a little bit of the collaboration where I would take this page where that VARLA did something, and then I took a poster that I found from Twist, and then I kind of did a collage on top. So I started to play off like me, her, and like just like mixing everything together to be one work. Next. And then I had the opportunity to present the project again in our Meridian section in Art Basel, Miami Beach. And I was very excited because I felt that it was so suitable for Miami Beach because VARLA have walked on those streets. I felt that VARLA would have loved the limelight of being like in such an important venue as Art Basel, and I felt that it had to be. I love like all this glamour that this was, and you know, this installation. So this installation really, I expanded the installation. I brought it more, put in more work. I made the quilt bigger, so there was more imagery of VARLA to look at. You know, there was like this book that I made that that has all the articles of VARLA, so people could sit there and like really read all these like gossip columns that she did. So I think this was kind of like almost like a culmination of the project. I think I had done a little bit at the Frost Museum, but then here I just kind of like really like dive into the VARLA's work, just kind of like make it even bigger. Next. So, and I also had like some memorabilia that some friends that knew VARLA gave me, and some people gave me some pictures and some clippings and things like that, and I put them in this vitrine, so almost like a little museum of VARLA, so you could see like visitors kind of like came in and like they really learn about. And one of the greatest things about this exhibition was that so many people that knew VARLA came to the show, and they were like they told me about all these experiences. So that's how the project was really great, because it really kept all of these anecdotes and all these stories from different people. Everybody kept telling me all these things, and I kind of like started learning more about VARLA through word of mouth. So that was pretty great to kind of like that. The research just kind of like came very natural for the project. Next. So this is the book that I made with all the VARLA columns. I also was obsessed with The Wire, with having my picture taken for The Wire when I arrived in Miami Beach. So I felt that was kind of like a funny coincidence. And I wanted to make this book so people could really, if somebody really wanted to spend time and read all these crazy columns of VARLA, could sit down and really enjoy those. Next. I think that's it. Thank you.
Oh. Me now.
Take it away, Mark.
Well, Pepe, I think it's fabulous. You know, Craig would have absolutely adored having his mug up at Art Basel, and then he would have trashed every single person that walked to him after they left. Which just, it makes me so happy thinking about it.
Awesome.
I met Craig I guess I moved to South Beach. I'd gone to New York, gone to American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and decided I hated actors. So I moved back to Florida, moved to South Beach, and it was December of #90 at Torpedo. And South Beach back then was, it was more magical than anyone's ever told you. It was this town where, there were Hasidic Jewish hotels on Ocean Drive, where the men and the women had to sit on different parts. There were Marielles, there were artists, and it's sort of like, it's sort of the way of art goes. It's, cool artists and gay people show up to a place that they think is dangerous and make it something, and then a gap moves in. But it was magical. So the first time I saw VARLA, she was doing a show called I Hate Christmas, and Craig had painted, which is one of his go-tos. He bought a lot of clear vinyl and he painted on the back of it as if it were stained glass. So she had done this set of her apartment, and it was a VARLA show, and she did everything for everyone, but she didn't, and everyone ended up hating her. It was the poor, poor, pitiful me, but hilarious. So after that show at Torpedo, I went up to Craig and I fucking love this show. This is amazing. I have a video camera. I do some stupid videos. I want to shoot you. And, Craig being from New York was very dismissive because, everyone walks up to you in a club after you do something and tell you how fabulous they are. So I showed up at his studio 2 days later, and he was like, "Oh, I guess you were serious." So we started talking, and that point, Espanola Way, that shot he had, Craig actually had the studio on the 3rd floor with the balconies. So he was living very glamorous, but it was a dirt floor. I mean, artists, we're all used to the dirt floor, but we don't think of it as a dirt floor. It's just, how we live. So I decided, I was talking to Craig and we decided we're going to do something. VARLA was born for one of the first Suzanne Barsh parties at Warsaw. Craig wanted to go, he wanted to do something. And there was this promoter named Steve Love at the time. And VARLA had found this shitty wig, which became the VARLA signature wig, which was the headband and the brown hair. And she was going to call herself Cruel Carla. And Steve Love said, no, you're VARLA from Faster Pussycat. So that's where her name comes. If you're familiar with the Russ Myers film, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, VARLA was VARLA. So, we did like a day and a half of talking about what we were going to do. And the thing about Craig is he was so energetic. He was, almost, I guess you could almost call it manic, shades of manic, because he would get onto something and go, go, go. So we're talking about this. He told me a story about when he first moved to South Beach, and he was walking up and down looking. He was supposed to look at this storefront from these people in New York, and he went to a bodega and saw everyone ordering coladas. So he ordered a colada and took it. He's like, oh, this is great. He walked down Washington Avenue, drank a colada, and he got the health benefits of a colada immediately, and ended up pooping in an alley like a cat. And he told me this story, and I fell in love with him. I was like, I absolutely love this man because he does not give a fuck. He was so good. So we decided we were going to shoot this, and it was a lot of cajoling because he'd only gone to clubs. And when you're a drag queen and you can go to a club, you don't have to show up in drag. You can get there, beat your face, especially Craig, because VARLA's drag was borderline booger. So didn't matter. But this was the first time he was going to leave his house at daylight. So he was terrified. And a lot of it was coaxing, getting him to do it. Because, if you knew Craig, you knew he had it in him. He was so much of everything. And we ended up shooting this it's terrible and hilarious and wonderful and awful. But it was VARLA's shtick. VARLA, this is Candy here on the right. VARLA had a wall of wigs, and every wig had a different personality. Most of them, unfortunately, were on the left, VARLA. And this was Candy. Candy was always very happy. So we shot this video, and then VARLA, there's a cop walking down Washington Avenue. VARLA's in drag, booger drag, and she's like, oh my God, I have a joint in my purse. What am I going to do? I was like, if you're that upset about coming out in drag, VARLA, why did you put a joint in your purse? Which, it's Craig. It's, Craig, everything about VARLA's personality was, I think I'm fabulous. I think I'm loving everyone and doing everything amazingly, and everybody should love me because I'm such a wonderful, warm person. When you as the viewer, no, he's not. And it always ends up with the left side, with her crying and, not understanding why this happened to her. But it was genius. And Craig had this cachet because Craig was New York. I was fucking from Fort Lauderdale, pardon my French. So we had things where we had Pat Fields shooting with us and Yo-Yo Weinberg. And because, Craig could pull that. And it was an amazing time for me, because to watch someone like Craig, who was so focused, oh yeah, on his art, and it all went back to his actual paintings and sculpture. No matter what he was doing with drag, whatever he was doing, it was all to get everyone to come back and look at this and see him as a valuable, important artist. And it's the way of art. It doesn't matter how talented you are all the time. It just matters who you know, who sees you, what the time is, what the time frame is, whether it speaks to that time or not. But as you saw from Craig's apartment, like manic, every inch of his apartment was painted. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, the curtains separating his rooms. They were all painted. It took so much energy. And I'd shoot with him for a day, and I would come back the next day, and there were 6 paintings that he'd done. After shooting all day, he would have done 6 paintings. What do you think of these? well, they're fabulous because, you know, everything he did was fabulous. Which is, I don't know. Then, so after we shot Gigantic Bitch, which is awful and, you know, not very well edited, whatever. It was fun. We had it, Louis Canales, who ran Semper's. He was really trying to do a private club on South Beach at the time, which it wasn't ready for. So what Louis would do is bring artists in. He would say, you know what, if we're bringing people from across the Causeway crowd, we're going to have artists in here. So Louis Canales had a pocket full of drink tickets, and Craig and I would go there, drink tickets, and you would be crazy artists, and you would make these people's nights. So Louis was integral to this because he allowed us to do VTV at Semper's, which was such a hoity-toity club. But the first night when we did Gigantic Bitch, JC from Art Act had the thing downstairs on Espanola, and Craig and I shot the video, and then Craig built a 3-story puppet of himself out of this vinyl back painted. And after the initial part of Gigantic Bitch, when he falls asleep and he becomes this gigantic bitch, everyone had to leave the Art Act space and stand on Espanola Way. And there was a 3-story puppet of VARLA with every artist using, you know, sticks to control his arms, his legs, and Craig's head at the top. It was kind of a magical moment. One of those things like, oh, wow, this is one of those magical moments you're never going to get again. But right after that, because of Craig's manicness, he started doing these. He decided, I'm going to do this. So he would go to the dollar store and he would buy products, and he would bring them to us at Flashbacks. We had a vintage store on Washington and 12th at the time. And we would sell like My Butt Stinks Bubble Bath, Work It, Jerk It lotion, you know, and it was just like Craig Xeroxing things on it and selling it for $10, buying for $1, selling for $10, and we gave him the money. But again, all of it was to bring people back to his visual art, his painting, his sculpture. So after we shot Gigantic Bitch, he did this. Then we went into VARLA Television, VTV. So let's do this. So we started doing this, and we had Pat Fields and Yo-Yo Weinberg. We're in their apartment. We're doing all of this. That was a big hit. We showed it at Semper's. Thank you, Louis Canales. And thank you, Tara Solomon, for bringing Karaoke in. You know, there were these people that were above us on the social scale. So they brought us up. We did what we did. And then Craig decided he was going to be a singer. So he started recording music. And after VTV1, I started shooting VTV2 with them, but he got distracted because he was going to be a singer now. And he was going to use music to bring people to his visual art. And that was always the goal for him, to be in a gallery, to be accepted, to be collected, you know, which is what any artist really wants. So he started doing music. So he recorded this song called I'm Thirsty. And there was this it was a club called The Garage, Kevin, right? It was where Club New stored all their giant props. They're like Mardi Gras props. Had no air conditioning, had nothing. VARLA was premiering her song, I'm Thirsty, I Need a Drink. So, of course, you know, and it's just an amazing thing that happened, because as VARLA tries to be fantastic and show how loving she is to everyone, the night she's premiering it, a minute into the song, all the lights came up and it was a raid. So VARLA got raided on her first night of her debut of her hit new disco track, I'm Thirsty. Oh my God. I remember Petunia was shedding glassine baggies like a fucking porcupine. But it was hard for him. And I felt for him because I saw his art. And I think a lot of people saw his art. But at that time, South Beach artists weren't respected. They weren't. Pepe, when you came in, it was a little bit later, and then people, hindsight is always much stronger to see, oh, this artist really sort of deserves some attention. Unfortunately for Craig, it didn't happen when he was actually doing the art, and as it usually doesn't happen for other artists. He inspired me so much, and his energy and his focus was so amazing, and how it always, no matter what he did, no matter what that, drag, anything he did, it was all about trying to get people to see him as the artist he was. And, you know, once he started his music career, we split. So, you know, VTV2, I had to fill in with some other friends of mine, and we started doing our own thing, Video Schmidio, after that. And I remember Craig, like, he was trying to get this guy, Robert Miller, who was a queer art collector person, you know, had more money than all of us, to collect his work. So he went there and he showed him one of our videos, and our videos are terrible. I'm not going to say our videos are terrible, but he came back to me and said, Robert Miller hated this video so much. And he said, but Tomato Plenty loved it. And that made me happy, because Tomato Plenty was much more important to me than Robert Miller. And then Craig and I really kind of stopped hanging out so much, because he was, again, focused on what it was that was going to get him what he needed and what he deserved. I mean, I'll say that. It was what he deserved that he never got. He was focused, and I was fine. And I stepped back, and the last conversation I ever had with Craig was, it was one night I walked into Twist, and he was downstairs and sitting at the main bar under the stairs, and the ATM is over here, and everyone's lined up at the ATM. And then Craig said, Jesus Christ, they should just serve $20 baggies out of that thing. And that's Craig. And you know what? Once again, Craig was right.
100%.
100%. Oh God, I just, you know, I love that guy. Just amazing, amazing person.
I thought it might be, I just wanted to ask you a quick question, is whether or not you guys watched the attack of the 50-foot woman before making Gigantic Bitch.
I did. I mean, I worked in a vintage shop. I was a B-movie freak. The Brain from Planet Oris, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. I was all about these B sci-fi movies from the 50s. Victor Furenas was an artist there too. He had that place Hyperspace up on Lincoln Lane.
Yes.
And he introduced me to like Russ Meyer's, you know, a lot of amazing bad girl shit. But yes, I always loved this, and this is what I brought to Craig. It was like, so you're this awful drag queen, then let's make you the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And somebody was, you know, it all was just like this. Let's do it. Why not?
So I thought it might be good, just for people who aren't familiar with this genre. We'll show the trailer for Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and then we can watch Gigantic Bitch. So let me hit play here.
And I apologize in advance for anyone who watches Gigantic Bitch.
Once a normal, voluptuously beautiful woman, she drove into a nightmare of horror and saw descending from the sky a titanic monster whose fearsome touch became a frightful curse.
You think I'm drunk, don't you? All of you! I'm not drunk! I'm not! You've got to believe me. It was right in the middle of the highway, 30 feet tall.
Once she's in the booby hatch, throw the key away. That'll put you in the driver's seat. You'd make a wild driver, Harry. With $50 million.
What she saw was beyond belief until others, too, faced its hideous, uncontrollable menace. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, incredibly huge, with incredible desires for love and vengeance.
All right. right, so everybody settle in. I'll hit play on Gigantic Bitch, and hopefully Mark can maybe give us some commentary. Let's get started.
I apologize immediately. I had no
Yeah.
editing technique, you know.
Pre-apology that this is a work made of its time, 1991. I do want to say there's a lot of South Beach in this film, which is one of the most interesting parts of it. And then there are lots of amazing cameos that you could look out for in this film as well. And probably you want to say that a lot of this has been improvised and sort of edited in camera, which is a skill unto itself.
If anyone has marijuana, smoke it now. I don't know why I didn't let him do the credits. How fucking manic it was and beautiful. Imagine how it, before meth. This is before meth. Look at his house.
What the fuck is that? Oh man. Oh, come here, kitty. Come here, kitty. Shut up. Fuck.
No cats were harmed during the making of this film.
Oh, jeez, it's so fucking sunny outside. Oh, fuck. Take another beautiful fucking day. What time is it? 2 o'clock. Where's the coffee? Where's the coffee? Oh man, what a mess.
This is VARLA's signature wig.
Right, hey. Damn. Oh man. Oh, morning, sweetie. How are you, baby? Mommy will be with you shortly. Mommy's gonna have her coffee. Where's that fucking coffee?
Yeah, the red wig was always like at the end of the night when VARLA just went so bad. She ended up in the red wig, but she always started in the
It's in there. Oh my god, a hairball. Disgusting. Oh man. It's 2 o'clock. I gotta take a shit.
Can't forget it.
Fucking coffee collection, man. I gotta take a dump. God, it's on my panties. Oh shit, I'm gonna have to take the whole fucking thing off. Oh, I don't have time. Oh man, I have got so much shopping to do too. What the fuck am I gonna wear? Oh God, these are filthy. They stink too. Oh, I'm tired. Something to eat. Hey, stay low. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, I'm doing great. I'm ready to go shopping. Woo! We're gonna get some bargains today, especially with my 5-figure discount. Oh, you're just so gorgeous.
VARLA actually gave me the orange one over the sculptures.
Hey!
Basic Carol's third act.
Hey, Mama! Mama! Hey, hon, what's up, babe?
What?
You want to go to Paris? They have those pumps on sale.
Those pops, how much are they?
$4.99.
$4.99!
$4.99.
Right down!
Worst staircase ever. Anyone who lived in that knows. First time drunk.
Oh, you look fab. You love that outfit. Let's go get the pumps before they're all gone.
Let's go! I'll buy you a pair.
Oh, great.
That's what I want, your green handbag. I want the matching green handbag. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Oh, come on.
Hurry before they're all gone.
What do you think? This match my blouse?
Are they leather?
Yeah. Ooh, could they so fabulous? Look at the little plastic.
Ooh. What's your name?
My feet would get all sweaty and I'd get a rash.
Fog up the place. We can find 12.
Let's see, look there.
Two for $18. Oh, but they're not leather, but what the hell?
They don't have anything over 2-inch pumps. I've already got 3 inches
I guess
here.
they figure if you're a size 12, you don't need much height, do they? Ooh, girl, look at these. Eric saw.
We should get some sandals. Anyway, it stinks in here. Let's get out of here.
Look at vinyl.
Let's go look at that. Oh, fuck. One shoe. Oh, Jesus Christ. What do you think, JC?
I think they're beautiful. Too bad they're not higher.
I know.
What about these?
They're nice, the same color as my name.
2 for $18, hon. What about sandals for the day wear?
These self-service shoe places, you know?
Thanks for the pump, Laurel. Gotta
We asked them
go.
for empty boxes and they obliged.
Get ready for your big show, hon. Bye.
Isn't it?
You going to Woolworth?
go about the cash machines here.
Oh, it's VARLA. What a bitch. God. Jeez.
What's the matter with you, fucker? How dare you speak to me like that?
What are you doing here?
I'm shopping. What else? I have
Get the
money.
hell out. Get out.
I have cash.
You got me on
What's the matter with you?
Bitch.
Bitch! I'm gonna get you, fucker!
The realness.
Oh, Jesus. Fucking cops are everywhere. Not enough for you? Oh my God, it's fabulous stuff. It's great. Love it. There's really some nice things here. No, that's not right.
Hey, Lee, what are you doing in there?
Nothing. I'm not doing anything. What are you talking about?
Why do I have your shirt?
No, that's nothing. I'm not sitting in here.
Get over here.
I don't see any good books in here. Oh, Star Spangled Football. It's one of my favorite records.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
What are you doing?
I'm shopping.
Put that book, open that first. Just
What are you
open it.
talking about?
You have a book in there?
What book?
I buy some VARLA.
Do you think I want
Your stinking guts.
He's smoking in a bookstore.
Open that up. VARLA.
Do I know the effect today?
Here's where she saw the cop and she has a joint in her purse, so she's trying to get away from him.
Thanks for the snacks.
Oh, walk, Mommy.
Here's the onion flavored drinks. There they are. Oh my God, pork rinds. Good barbecue flavor? Yeah. No, I'll just get something on the way out. I'll just eat the lunch. 34C, honey. That's not gonna do.
My whole goal for this film was to get her to sit down at the counter at Moore's, and we've achieved that.
Excuse me? My God, am I freaking starving? We'll have a Long Island iced tea and a bacon turkey burger. It's 3:30. I'll have time to look at it. shopping.
The Lincoln Road Tram, ladies and gentlemen. The Lincoln Road Tram.
Just goes right down to the shoe store. We have the 8% sale. Highest spots on the beach. Wow. What's taking so long?
How will you make it on your own? This world is awfully big, girl, this time you're all alone. But it's time you started living. It's time you let someone else do some giving. Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can have it down, why don't you take it? You might just make it after all. You might just make it after all.
Hey, you're not allowed in here, bitch.
What are you talking about? I come in here all the time.
You're not allowed anymore.
Are you? Well, you're a piece of trash, you know?
Eres una puta.
Everybody that knows that. What are you guys talking about? Stop it! Motherfucker! I hate you! I hate this whole fucking bitch! I'm leaving! Oh my god! Son of a bitch!
Nowhere to go.
I'm gonna go
Final
get a
doesn't
drink
do
and
it.
I'm getting... I hate all of you! Every single one! Bye, mister. Can I get a ride? I need to go to the Deuce to have a drink.
Oh, fuck, bitch.
What are you talking about?
Prostitute.
Come here.
Bitch.
You fucker.
Fuck you.
I hate this bitch. I try to be nice to everybody. Do little shows to be friendly to everyone. When do I get back? Shit! I'm so lonely. I don't have any friends. I'm not a gigantic bitch. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with everybody. I'm not. God, don't even call me anything to eat and taste.
Disco dance makes them house music.
I am not a gigantic bitch. I wish I was though. I wish I was a giant bitch. I'd show them a fucker. A fucker. I am not a gigantic bitch. How can you speak to me like that?
Such money spent.
So you know who I am? Oh God. I wish I was kind. I'll show them. I wish I was kind. Yeah, that's right.
Ignore the jetpack. Please ignore the jetpack.
Ball is like stomping on the tap.
Beautiful roof of the Espanola Arts Center.
I'm never gonna take that kind of treatment ever again, because I'm beautiful, and that's how I want you all to treat me, like a star. From now on, you're all working for me. Otherwise, forget it. You're dead. Yeah, that's right, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this drag show to bring you a special bulletin. VARLA is attacking the building. VARLA is attacking the building. Please evacuate in a safe and orderly manner. Please step away from the stage and move toward the rear doors. Please move toward the rear doors. Except for you, cutie. Why don't you meet me in the sound booth? Ooh. Beat it! Come on, get out the door!
As I said, that's how we ended it. We projected this into space. Well, actually, we played it on TV, and then at the end, we made everyone go out to the street. Which, you know, if you saw that shot of Espanola Way Art Center, Craig was on the 3rd floor, Art Act was on the 1st floor, every other freaky artist was in the middle. But we actually made them leave the performance space, and God, I wonder what happened to that puppet. I want that giant 3-story VARLA puppet. So basically, that was that. And later, like when we did it, I added an ending, but it was amazing to work with this guy. He's just energy. I mean, all he needs is energy and focus. He was so focused on what he wanted, and you couldn't fault him for like him not wanting to do more video stuff, because he was really focused on all of these things around him that he was doing to bring it back to the physical canvas, the physical wood, the physical everything that he was doing and producing. And I understood it, and I never faulted him for it, and that we went our own ways. He was so talented. Just so fucking talented and smart and hilarious. And I just don't understand what his sad luck was, because not only was the debut of his hit song that got rated for, like, you know, mannitol dealers with just a hint of cocaine, he tried to do a thing called VARLA's Summer Camp for Wayward Boys at Boomerang. Kevin, you remember Boomerang, right? It was one of those clubs where it didn't matter who you were or what you were cool there. It wasn't a gay club, it wasn't a straight club. It was like, because, you know, there was that middle thing happening there in South Beach where there weren't so much walls. It was, you know, you could go somewhere and you could be with every type of person. So he tried to do that, and for whatever reason, it failed miserably. And I don't know why, because VARLA was hot, VARLA was good, but it failed because VARLA's VARLA. And then it was sad. You know, why didn't you like me? I did this whole party for you.
I do want to ask how it looks as if Gigantic Bitch was made in one day, because I don't see the outfit changing.
Oh, no, it's one day.
It was one day to create, like, essentially, you come up with the movie idea and you just contact JC Carroll.
No, she just walked up.
She just walked up.
She walked
it's
up.
Amazing that it's like mainly improvised, and shot without a script, edited in camera, and made in one day.
Yeah.
So
we had certain scenes, like when I said to him, I said, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And it was, oh, I gotta go outside during the day. I gotta go outside during the day. I was like, yes, you have to, because it's all happening during the day. That's when like the real people. It's like when you watch that, you just see, you don't see a lot of hipsters. You don't see a lot of muscle queens. You don't see a lot of like the South Beach. It was just, that was Washington Avenue at that time. So when you take this drag queen and you throw her into the middle of, you know, like 700 like balseros and Marielles and like old Jewish women, it just becomes, you know, it was brilliant, you know, and it was hard because, you know, I understand it. It's easier behind the camera. It's easier to say, this is what I want you to do, than to have some 6-foot guy in booger drag on the street and then making him do it. So a lot of it was just like where he let go in his art, and you see it on the canvas and everything. And it's like, this, you've chosen this to be, for me with him, I was like, Craig, look, you've chosen this to be part of your art. This is an extension of your art. And so just go as hard as you go on the walls of your house, you know, do it. And, you know, if this is what's going to get you there. And I didn't really realize at that point, that was the point of it. I thought it was another aspect, but for Craig, again, it all came back to what he really deserved that he never got, which is VARLA. I mean, that's, you know.
And was this film made before Nightmare at the Karaoke?
No, Nightmare at Karaoke was done first.
And I would encourage anyone who's watching this evening to go watch that film.
Yeah, I made it, and I wouldn't.
I mean, we didn't screen this Nightmare at the Karaoke because it's mainly shot in Semper's, which was a basement nightclub, if you can believe that, on Ocean Drive, right off of Ocean Drive. And but it is a great sort of opportunity to see VARLA fail and, you know, attempt doing karaoke for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, is apprehensive about trying it, does it, fails miserably, and yeah, I don't think she was apprehensive about really doing it. I think she thought she was fabulous. And Tara Solomon is the reason to watch it, because Tara Solomon was the genetically female drag queen of South Beach before all the drag queens showed up and mopped her style. It was fun. And like I said, Semper's was this amazing place where, you know, they were trying to do this private club and they had to bring in all of these local color, I guess you would call it. You know, Louis Canales, Louis, I fucking love you. I don't know if you're listening. You were fucking amazing. But that, more so than like the established art, you know, people like Louis and Tara and that supported us for doing this, you know. And the thing is, like, back then it was so much, we're going to do a show. You're in your 20s. We're going to do a show. Let's do something. Who cares who shows up? If it's great, it's great. If it's not, it's not. And that gigantic bitch moment at Art Act with JC and everything was one of those, like, you know, magical moments on South Beach where, like, if you were there, oh yeah, you were there. That was fucking amazing. And if you weren't, you weren't. You know, I don't know what I was talking about, but hi, hey, Pepe, what's going on? Pepe, do you have you seen Gigantic Bitch before this evening?
I saw it, you know, maybe like a couple of times before, but, you know, this is my third time, and it's interesting how every time that you know, you see, I mean, for me, the most, you know, the South Beach, I mean, the same thing that you said, like, that really intriguing. It's almost like another character for me, you know, in the movie, and like the Española way. And I mean, her apartment is like also very intriguing to me, that she almost like lives in this installation, and, you know, it's almost like her work becomes her life. I mean, that's for me very fascinating, you know. Well,
that's why I asked you. I didn't realize that you were late to the game, that you were coming in after this, which is so interesting to me, that you came in after all this happened. But like Craig would say things to me. He's like, I brought these two cutie fucking boys home and I thought I was going to get laid. And they just tried out my wigs. I was like, oh yeah, that would be him because he's the artist. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put on the VARLA signature wig. And that was another thing with Craig too. It's like, we explored it in VTV and I'm sorry it's all off. But he had a wall of wigs, which is, that painting basically was his wall of wigs on a shitty nail from Ace Hardware. And his wigs gave him different personalities. And his different personalities were, he had Candy, which was that blonde kitten wig. And she was like, hey, oh, woo, hey, ah. She was very upbeat. And then like VARLA, when VARLA started the evening, it was the signature wig, which you bought the painting of with the headband. And it didn't matter like where VARLA started with the signature wig, it would always end up with that trashed boogie red wig crying in a mirror. Somehow it and that was so genius to me. It's like, okay, so yeah, I see where you started the evening, you thought you were going, and yet this is where you end up, and you always end up in that boogie red wig. I don't know. He was an amazing man.
So she was changed the wigs throughout the night?
Like no. This was just in like doing for video and stuff.
Oh, for video.
Would change. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What's interesting to sort of try and wrap your head around was this 24/7 party scene that was happening on South Beach and going out and performing, but also the ability to be such a prolific producer of paintings and sculpture.
There's so many.
I mean, I don't know how he cracked the space-time continuum that he was able to produce as much work as he was able to produce.
Yeah.
And I mean, in 1993, 1994, he was trading paintings for rent in the Espanola Way Art Center.
Craig did well.
The two paintings that MOCA has in the collection were given to us by George Cole, who was an acupuncturist on South Beach, and he was trading acupuncture treatments to Craig for painting. So Craig knew how to turn his work into currency, but the fact that he found the time to do the work is amazing.
Like I said, where I say was like it was manic before I knew what manic was, because he wasn't like this insane drug addict that where you look at someone's house like that, it's like, oh yeah, that's Tina art. Like you've been like smoking bowl of Tina and you paint your whole life. It wasn't that. I mean, Craig partied, yeah, he drank, he partied, but he wasn't that. So like to see that when I first walked into his place, I was like, wow. He brought you stepped into a painting. You stepped into one of his paintings. You stepped in one of his primitive jungle, teal, albeit teal, lovely vermilion, color combo jungle. But it wasn't. And maybe that might have been a detriment, because usually when I see something like that against the white wall, but Craig had no white walls. Just walls with that.
The scene where he's dancing in his apartment and then there's like a portrait on the wall behind him. It's almost like kind of like the portrait coming to life, in that scene. For me, it's like so great.
Yeah, and he was doing really well in the fact that he was painting portraits of people on South Beach, and you of course
whether they wanted to or not.
Right. So
and he would sell it to them.
It was a smart strategy because he would paint you and you would want to buy the painting from him. So,
he only painted those who could buy the painting from him. So this guy was smart.
Yeah.
He
was smart. And it's also interesting to consider that the Lower East Side of New York and Alphabet City and that ghetto that existed, it was very difficult for the artists to actually break out of that ghetto. And only a few artists did, like Kenny Scharf, David Wojnarowicz, less or so, because he passed away at a young age also.
Keith Haring.
And Keith Haring. And then Craig moves to South Beach, which was a very similar ghetto. It was an art ghetto, and a lot of the artists—
It was a gay ghetto, an art ghetto.
Who were working down there were finding challenges getting their work out of South Beach. So, So we want to see if there are any questions in the chat, and we're getting a lot of accolades, and a lot of folks are very happy to hear these stories and sort of bring them back. And I want to thank everybody who's shown up: Israel Sands, Tara, Carlos Bentoncourt.
Well,
this
where's
is
Ollie? Is Ollie here? Let me scroll. Where's Ollie? Hold on. Wait a minute.
So,
where's
for
Adora?
Mark,
Where's Adora?
we've got two questions from Carlos Bentoncourt, who wants to ask Mark, what do you think were Craig's main artistic influences?
Oh my God. Well, Dick, number one. But it was weird for me with Craig because the primitive. I'm talking to a white guy from Connecticut who lived in San Francisco, like, so how he channeled the primitive to me, I think there's something outside of like what he was and who he was that brought his art, because his art wasn't disingenuous at all. His art was, it was the shit. It was it. But for like to have this primitive jungle, like, I mean, it was sexual. It was like a boner. And I don't think that like, and I think VARLA was organic. I don't, like, I don't really, I don't want to like say anything. I feel that was lesser than what he was, and everything he did lesser than his painting and sculpture was only to bring people to his painting and sculpture. So we never really talked about it deeply, but I just find I just think there had to be something outside of Craig that made him see how he saw, because it was impossible for where he was and what he came from to see that. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just weird and stupid.
I don't know if it's as much an artistic influence, but just influence in general was what I'd call the seedy underbelly. He didn't study, he didn't go to art school, he didn't study painting, but I think his influences come from like the Lower East Side and just the grit of, I mean, when I say he had a basement studio that had dirt on the floor, it literally, his sister was telling me it was a dirt floor in his studio. So,
But so you think his life on South Beach was so much more elevated than that? You saw him eat a Funyun with ketchup, and that was the only food we had in the apartment. Yeah. However, I mean, the hunger makes people produce amazing art. Yeah. Any kind of hunger.
100%. Suffering, the best art is born from suffering, for sure. And from Carlos, for Pepe, what visual aspect of Craig's work can you most relate to?
I think for me, it's the not only like Mark was saying, not only producing paintings, but also producing all these other objects and ephemera and the cover of the Wire, or like, just like kind of like his persona. It's almost like, I love how this is almost like he's saying, like, not only the artwork, like the pieces, like the paintings and the sculptures. Also, like, I like this idea of a whole world, like an artist creating a whole like environment around them that they inhabit, and then the work kind of like expands, So definitely that's something that I very attracted to.
Mm-hmm. And then we have one question from Mark. You're being asked, don't you believe that Craig was a true gifted individual whose creativity was at times much more than even he was able to comprehend?
No, I think that he knew exactly what he had. And I think that's where his frustration came from a lot, was that he knows he's a genius. He could, I mean, if you ever stood in that studio, if you ever looked around at like 6 paintings that weren't there the day before when we were talking about shooting something at fucking, Carvel, whatever. It was like he knew what he had. He couldn't find. And it's not that, and it's not his job. It's not an artist's job to find it. It's the world's job to find the artist. And unfortunately, that's what happens. So many artists get focused on trying to push themselves into here and here. And you got to see me. You got to do this. I got to get this grant. I got to do this. And it should just be an artist producing and people finding the artist. So no, I think Craig knew what he had. And I think that is the main point of his frustration, was that he knew what he had, and yet these motherfuckers weren't seeing it properly. So that's what I'm going to say about Craig.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with, it's always a roll of the dice, and it was bad timing, and his work just wasn't getting in front of the right people at the right time. Billy O'Connor says primitive, religious, these are influences.
Yes.
Vasquez. I don't know if he was actively looking at these artists. He was truly pulling this up out of himself. Wasn't
absolutely.
He didn't go to school to learn anything that he did. He was just channeling something. So,
and trust and believe, when I went over, he was not watching a documentary about religious primitive artwork. It was porn.
Yeah. Exactly. So, any final comments or remarks from either of you? I think we're gonna.
This is wonderful. This is so much fun.
Yeah. So
I can't believe I got to suffer through that movie with everybody.
I feel this VARLA journey keeps expanding, and now listening to Mark has been just like another chapter on my journey to learn about her, and it's just been awesome. Thank you, and thank you, Kevin.
And good luck on your crochet.
So I want to thank you both for joining us and taking time to do this. And I've been wanting to share this work of Craig. I want to invite everyone to come to the Museum of Contemporary Art and see Raul de Nieves' show and our Haitian Life and Spirituality paintings from the Rudman Trust Collection. So this brings us to the end of tonight's program. I want to remind everyone that on this Friday, March 26th at 7 p.m., you can check out Virtual Jazz at MOCA with Melanie Charles on your radio. That'll be on WDNA FM radio 88.9 and at MOCA
FM
or broadcasting on the radio. And then Conversations at MOCA returns on March 24th with Miami-based artists Mark Hanforth and Adler Guerriere in celebration of the Electric Tree. That will be moderated by Deja Carrington, and we will be premiering the micro documentary of the making of the Electric Tree. We also encourage everyone to visit our website, follow us on social media channels for up-to-date information about MOCA's upcoming programs. And I just want to say that tonight's program I want to dedicate to the approximately 38 million people currently living with HIV and the tens of millions of people who've died of HIV-related causes since the beginning of this epidemic. We're all living through a COVID epidemic right now. Imagine if it hasn't ended, and that's what people who are suffering with HIV. So we need attention put towards this as well as COVID. So on a high note, keep being creative. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward. Thank you, everybody, for joining the feed. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Pepe.
Thank
Peace.
you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome.